Hey, what's poppin', Bimjos? How's everybody doing today? And if any of you get that reference, proud of you. So I just watched the new Netflix movie called Before I Wake, and I put quote marks because this movie's been released in pretty much every single other country except for the US, but Netflix finally decided to, get the distribution rights. And honestly, I didn't think this movie was gonna be much more than a pile of dog shit because it's a horror film that's getting released in January that goes straight to video on demand, so not looking too good. But to be completely honest, surprisingly, not bad. And I would almost hazard to say it was pretty good. It's almost as if a married couple that you're friends with calls you up to watch their newborn baby because they need a night off. And because they're your friends, you agree to it, but the whole drive there, you're like, this kid's gonna cry and shit everywhere. But lo and behold, when you get to the house, the kid's asleep almost the entire time and you only have one diaper change. And then you basically just watch Fight Club on USA the rest of the night. And you're like, well, shit, this worked out. Only trouble is it's the USA version, so it's edited. But I mean, hey, at least the kid's not throwing up and pissing all over you, right? And the basic plot of the movie is Kate Bosworth and Thomas Jane play a married couple who lost their child recently in an accident. So they decide to adopt a child, played by Jacob Tremblay. Only problem is, at night when this kid goes to sleep, his dreams actually come true. And as we all know, when you're a kid, your dreams are not always hunky-dory, so some fucked up shit starts to happen, and that's basically your movie. And like I said before, surprisingly good. I did not expect to enjoy this movie at all. And I'm not saying this movie's like an all-time great or anything crazy like that, but the movie's definitely not a dumpster fire. The thing that I really liked about the movie is that it was set up to be this kind of like psychological horror movie, but in reality, it's more of like a family drama with like a horror backdrop, and I thought that was brilliant. You know how some movies, after you think about it for a little while, they start to either fester and you hate them, or they stay the same? And then there's other movies that actually ripen and get better the more you think about it. This is one of those movies for me, actually. Because after it was over, I was just like, okay, that was alright. And then after a while, I started to think about it, and I'm like, you know what, actually, that was pretty clever. I actually like that. The main issues that I have with the movie are mostly directorial things. Some of the acting wasn't really that great, and a lot of the story was a little bit predictable, as most horror movies are. However, everything that happened in the third act did not see that coming, and it kind of made the movie for me. Besides that, the music wasn't really too special. The special effects weren't particularly anything awesome. And some of you have heard me say this before, but there's a couple logistical inconsistencies that I didn't really like. For example, if somebody's 500 feet away in one camera shot, and then literally 3 seconds later they're like 2 feet away, and it's just like, ooh, movie magic. There's a few things that are just contrived bullshit like that in the movie, and that always annoys the piss out of me, but it didn't ruin the movie for me. And there was only a few scenes that had shit like that in it, and there's also one thing involving coffee like halfway through the movie where I was just kind of like, alright, I don't know why that was in the movie, but alright. Like, that scene is necessary, but what was going on with coffee was kind of irrelevant, and I'm kind of nitpicking because, I'm a fan of coffee. But other than that, I like the movie. I mean, I'm not like a horror aficionado. Like, for the most part, a lot of horror movies tend to suck in my opinion, so I generally veer away from them, but I have to admit, there was a few good scares in the movie, even though it kind of reminded me of that movie The Grudge. But there's one particular shadow scare in the movie that got me pretty good, and the fact that this movie was kind of juxtaposed with like a family drama mixed with horror, I thought that was actually pretty smart. Again, just the writing in this movie was on point in my opinion, even if it wasn't executed properly, as far as the directing goes. Thomas Jane's really hit or miss in the movie. Like, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not, and Kate Bosworth kind of the same thing. But she's a little different because she has some really good moments, but then most of the movie she's kind of flat to me. And the kid Jacob Tremblay wasn't too bad, which is another way of saying he was awesome. Because any of you who have followed me for a little while, you know that I grade child actors on a curve, because nowadays you'd be hard-pressed to find little bastard kids in public places that know how to shut their mouths for a few minutes. Let alone having to act a certain way and portray a certain mood in a film, which is basically astronomical. But realistically, that little bastard is probably gonna win an Academy Award before he's even old enough to drink, so good for him, I guess. And the very last thing that I will say is that Mike Flanagan, the director, is a sneaky, sneaky, sneaky little bitch. And that's because the song that he uses right before the credits roll is not a very popular song, but the people that have heard it fucking love it. So even for people that didn't like the ending of the movie, they get that little itty-bitty high note at the very ass end of the film. So it's like I said, sneaky bitch. But overall, guys, despite everything I've said, I feel like I like this movie a little bit more than I probably should have because my expectations were exceedingly low. But I think for a score out of 10, I'm gonna give it a 6.8. It's a pretty well-written movie. I can see why this movie was greenlit to begin with, but there's just quite a few things here and there that could have used a little bit more polishing. But overall, it wasn't a bad movie, and I recommend it, especially if you're into horror movies. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this movie yet? Have you even heard of it? Hop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, to all that other bullshit, and I will catch you guys later.